Oh, good evening, all. How is everyone doing tonight? Chris, Pat, how are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Pretty good.
Everyone having a good weekend so far?
So far, so good.
Yep. And I'm tomorrow. I'm doing traveling for the first time since the festivities started back in March.
Where are you traveling to?
I'm going to Iowa to visit my parents.
The excitement is just palatable.
Yeah. So,
Nothing against
it. He'll still be pretty well socially isolated in a car for, 10, 12 hours?
No, it's only eight to Des Moines. Almost exactly 8 hours to Des Moines. When I first came here, at one point, I had lived in Virginia and Rhode Island for like 30 years altogether. And when I first came here last year, at one point, my coworkers were telling me, well, here in the Midwest, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I'm from Iowa originally. 4 letters, 3 syllables, mostly I's and O's. It's the same place.
Crystal was just like, did you feed the dogs? I'm like, I don't know if I fed this. That's the way my day's been. It's like, are you guys hungry? Yeah, they're all right. So we'll get around to them. It has been a momentous day and a half or so. The good news is we sold our house, signed a contract, and Crystal bought a house. So she bought a house on Thursday, and then Friday our house sold. So so all this stuff has got to be packed up, and I freaking hate moving.
Mm-hmm. I did it about 8 or 9 times in 10 years, and so it was painful.
When you collect stuff, it's just the worst, because then I've got to pack up all my collection. I was so nice and settled into this room, and had a collecting room downstairs, my office here. Everything was exactly where I wanted it. Bought all the nice shelving, and now I got to pack it all up, and I just hate life.
I'm looking at doing that at some point in the next probably another year. But I sort of planned this.
Are you in a house there in Ohio?
I'm sorry?
You're in a house there in Ohio?
No, I'm in an apartment. So I was changing jobs, moving 450 miles away, and I decided that buying a house on top of those other 2 was just one step apart. So I figured I'll move into an apartment that's right next to the Air Force Base where I work. It'll give me an opportunity to sort of learn the area and think about what I want, et cetera, and then I'll plan on moving. So, but most of my book and game collection and some other stuff is all in storage. Everything in the storage unit is a 1-person lift that fits in my car back seat.
There you go.
So the plan is I will move all that stuff 5 boxes or crates at a time. It'll only take me about 10 years. I'll move all that stuff once I move into a place, and then everything in the apartment, even like I've got a storeroom where I got shit that I know I'm never going to use in the apartment, but it's big. It's a 2-person lift, so it came to the apartment.
Yeah. No, and so Crystal bought a place which we're going to move into when that closes like mid-October. But I'm buying a place right down the road. We're moving down to Monroe, which is where Dana Wagner, you remember Dana,
I remember Dana,
who really helped finish the bridge. So we're moving down there and that's probably where we're going to get the land for the studio. So Crystal bought a place, and then I'm buying a place, but the place I'm buying is kind of custom, whereas hers was like, this is the unit, take it as it is. It's brand new, and it's great because it's got a backyard for the dogs. We're going to fence in. It's going to be great. But like the unit that I'm looking at is end of this year, and we'll choose all the flooring and the blinds, and going to add it may have a base. They may build a basement into it, so it'll be very custom. So I'm going to have to move twice this year. So everything is going into storage. I'm only moving to the first house, like my clothing and my shaving equipment, and my YouTube stuff, right? But so we just need to be very careful about this. So welcome to everyone who's joined us. This is Starfleet Tactical. I see we have, what do we got? We got 26 people on the Axanar YouTube channel. Please check out the Aries Studios YouTube channel. Because that's where we live stream almost every night here. The Two Geek Girls show that Crystal and Lissa and Kelly do is on the Aries Studios channel. And then our nightly Axanar After Dark live streams are on the Aries Studios channel. The only two shows we do here on Axanar are Starship Tactical and Starfleet Tactical, and Axanar Confidential, which is Friday nights at 10, which is all about Axanar and behind the scenes with the people who are making it. So anyway, if you're watching on the Axanar YouTube channel, go check out the Aries Studios YouTube channel. The link is there on our YouTube channel on the right side. And what? Go. I got to get the dogs out of here so they can. Come on.
By the way, Alec, congratulations on having an Axanar channel.
Yeah. Hey, I know, huh? I know that was a lot of work, but it worked. We got it back, so that was great. That's why I misnumbered this episode number 10 when it was this episode's actually number 11, because I went to the Axanar channel and said, "Oh, episode 9 was our last episode. So this is episode 10," forgetting that we couldn't broadcast here on the Axanar channel last week. So, but all right. So this week we're going to finish up talking a little bit about starship design before we get to Star Trek Nemesis. Is that the idea?
We could a little bit about that. I mean, that's a topic that we could go. That could be a couple of different shows. But
why don't we get into Star Trek Nemesis, because we teased it last week, and you did a wonderful little playlist here.
We've teased it 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Way to build the tension. I think you should be a writer.
We could put it off another week and spend an entire episode talking about Warhammer.
Yeah, well, and of course, which gets us back to that classic.
How about spell?
Joe, you know how to keep a moron in suspense? I'll tell you tomorrow. So, but we're not going to do that to our fans, or unless they unsubscribe from our channel. So we're gonna listen. We're talking about the Star Trek. We talked about Star Trek Nemesis because I think most of us feel that it was the first time we saw a starship battle that was really that really had some thought behind it and had some interesting tactical executions that we liked, as well as ramming one starship into another, which is always a lot of fun.
As far as the ramming thing go, I'd like to point out it's the first time probably in science fiction history where someone rammed and nobody said ramming speed.
Yeah.
There's a spot on the throttle quadrant for ramming speed.
For ramming speed. I don't know what is ramming speed. It's like slow but careful, but go fast, but be careful.
But not too fast. Yeah.
Not too fast. They should all. Well, we'll get to that. Okay, so I have not seen the. I queued up each of these videos, so we're going to play each of these videos here.
Okay.
And so I guess we'll play one of the videos of the battle, and then we'll move into it. Is that
okay?
That good? All right. So here is the first scene.
There is so.
Go ahead.
If they're doing the thing where they knock the Enterprise out of warp, and then they come around, there's another 5-minute scene where they're chit-chatting in his briefing room. Certainly fast forward through that. So.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, that's There's 5 scenes on that playlist I put together, and the first one is all hand battle stations, and that's the obligatory conference room scene that ends with them going to battle stations.
All right, here we go.
All right.
It's called a cascading biogenic pulse. The unique properties of Thalaron radiation allow the energy beam to expand almost without limit. Depending on its radiant intensity, it could encompass a ship or a planet.
He would only have built a weapon of such scope for one reason. He's going after Earth.
How can you be certain?
I know how he thinks. Destroy humanity. You cripple the Federation. The Romulans invade. No way of penetrating his cloak.
No.
So he could pass within 10 meters of every ship in Starfleet and they'd never know.
We do have one advantage, though. He needs your blood to live. He might come after you first.
I'm counting on it. We've been ordered to Sector 1045. Our fleet has been diverted to meet us there.
Strength in numbers.
Yes, at least that's what we hope. He must not be allowed to use that weapon. All other concerns are secondary. You understand me?
Damn, just got married.
Yes, sir.
All hands, battle stations.
Initiate the force field.
Which didn't do any good whatsoever.
I know. Like
So one of the things I liked was that they weren't fooled by Shinzon's talk of peace.
Space at maximum.
Normally they're very gullible.
With the dedication I've come to expect of them. Like 1,000 other commanders on 1,000 other battlefields, I wait for the dawn.
That's a great line. Great line.
I sold that chair last year.
Oh,
Did
really?
you? Wow.
Oh, it's a bastard. It's so heavy, it's ridiculous.
How long?
A matter of hours. We must begin the procedure now.
How long until we reach the rift?
7 minutes.
Good grammar and
Okay. So there we go. There's the prep scene. We'll just call that the prep scene. Prep.
All right.
Yeah, as well pointed out, like that force field around the warp core falls like immediately. It's like, wow, man. What do what was it, made in Taiwan? What's the deal with that? You got the lowest bidder built that force field?
Well, the lowest bidder does build everything, at least in the U.S. Or at least in the U.S. military.
Well, yeah, but come on, there's no capitalism in the future.
Yeah. Well, that might not be a great thing. The
resource allocation, though. So
yeah.
Pat,
So,
go
ahead.
Pat.
All right.
Go ahead.
The only thing I was going to say is I like that they weren't fooled. Earlier on in the movie, we see that they had a plan to deal with Shinzon's sudden but inevitable betrayal, and they were ready for it. So, whereas most of the time in Starfleet, they're like, oh, they seem like very nice people. They're not going to do anything bad.
Right.
So this time they were ready for it. It was nice to see that they were finally a little more cynical.
Yeah, and then they get after about the third or fourth phaser hit. What's her name says, "I sense hostility."
Yeah. All right. We'll get it. Yeah. There's not much to comment on here. I mean, this is just the setup for the battle scene and also
one thing that Pat and I were talking about earlier today, though, in all of this, is that we're going to see, I think, fairly early on, there's a point where we see them do some tactics that I would think would be the sort of thing that would be sort of standard operating procedure if you're dealing with a cloaked ship. And there was nothing in that conference room discussion that was like a tactical discussion. They didn't discuss the problem at all. The closest we get is like, well, he'll have, he needs your blood. He'll probably come after you first. Oh, I'm counting on it. Well, care to enlighten us what the plan is? This is one of those things that after
come on, that's useless exposition in a script.
Yeah, but one of the things that really I realized after I started working with the military is that, every time somebody would call up, Geordi would call up to the bridge and say, "Captain, I think you need to get down here." And the response would be, "What is it, Geordi?" "Trouble, sir." And then they cut to a commercial. It's like, okay, I understand why you do that for drama purposes, but that is not how you give a report to a superior
Right,
officer.
exactly. Yeah.
And every now and then some people will say things like, "Well, I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about realism. I just care about good drama." And it's like, if it doesn't make sense, it's not good drama.
Right. It's for anyone who,
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is don't take the easy way out.
Listen, and unfortunately, this is the problem with our society nowadays, is that we have a huge uneducated population that doesn't care about certain things. It's just like, just give me the sound bite. I don't really care about the facts. I don't care about the policies. I don't care about the tactics. I just want the sound bite, right? That sounds good.
Perfect for 24-hour cable news.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but all right. So let's get to the next scene. Let me boot that up. All right, and here we go.
Target systems and shield. I don't want the Enterprise destroyed. Can you learn to see in the dark, Captain?
Report. Fine. Can't get a lock.
He disabled our warp drive with his first shot. We only have impulse, Captain.
Mr. Wolf, prepare full phase to spread 0 elevation. All banks on my mark. Scan for shield impact. Stand by. Proton torpedoes. Arsenal. Fire!
All right, let's stop here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked at how slow the photon torpedoes are.
Yeah,
now, granted, they're being fired at impulse. They're not being fired at warp.
Right.
And I guess if they're fired at warp, they're traveling at warp speed and they have warp sustainer propulsion. Yeah. So understood. But still, it's like, wow, those are just like, you're just like shooting spitballs at it.
Yeah, in that particular case, they did seem to go a little slow. Now, reading the tech manual, I mean, they do have to go through an acceleration process and all that kind of stuff. The only other thing is, if they're firing aft torpedoes, those torpedoes have to overcome their, potentially, at least with real physics, they have to go after the to go after Shinzon's ship, They have to overcome their momentum going forward.
Right. Well, if it,
but not necessarily in this. But
maybe it's relative if the camera's moving too. There's a great Mythbusters where they put an air cannon on the back of a pickup truck and fire a tennis ball backwards at the same speed the truck is moving forward. And which is great because I mean it literally just comes out and falls directly to the ground. They've got a stationary camera there because they're negating it, right? So what we see as it moving backwards might just mean that it's moving forward slower and Shinzon runs into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, but Shinzon avoids them.
Well, or doesn't run into it as the case may be. But so Pat, I was sitting here waiting for Pat to make a comment that he made to me earlier when we talked about this, but he hasn't. So I'm going to go ahead and steal Pat's comment. Pat points out that I think it was in Wrath of Khan that you're looking at them and you're going like, they're what, 2 miles apart, something like that. But because you see both ships in the same frame and they're recognizable, right? They're very recognizable. They're not very far apart. But all the chatter back and forth, they're talking about them being 50,000 kilometers away. So I decided a long time ago that for my own sanity, I don't really believe any of the apparent visual distances in this because it's inconsistent even with other evidence within the show as to how far apart they really are. And so things like photon torpedo speed, etc., I sort of put in that same category.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just going to make a note. I just try to read through the comments. Listen, someone, I think it was Ron Leckford, sent me a personal message. I don't have time during these streams when we're doing something like this to answer the comments. So if you have something, my email is always the best way to get a hold of me, alec@axanar.com. And if you don't know how to spell that by now, you're a very bad fan. Anyway, thank you. And then Steve Ross asked about our studio. Weren't we going to build a house on the property of the studio? Yeah, but the idea is we're buying a house, then we'll buy land for the studio, then we'll build a studio, and then down the road we'll build a house. So since you asked, there you go. All right, back to the problem at hand. Let's get back to Star Trek Nemesis.
Pattern Shinzon Theta.
We are losing dorsal shields. Full axis rotation to port. Fire all ventral phasers.
Minimal damage to the scimitar.
Defensive pattern Kirk Epsilon. Get the shields online, Jordy.
Already on it.
Council Troy, report to the bridge.
Captain, we are being hailed.
Okay, just at this point, I want to point out that was just kind of obnoxious fan service in my book. You know, pattern Kirk Epsilon. It's like, oh, come the fuck on. Really, it was just like that was just. That was just really obnoxious fan service, I thought, and you never see that in Star Trek, and we sort of, But anyway, that's my 2 cents there.
I hope it was named after his brother.
we call him George for short. All right, here we go.
On screen. Captain Picard. Will you join me in your ready room?
You can't trace my holographic emitters, Captain, so don't bother.
Hey, Alec, did you see that we lost the stream?
Oh, no. Oh, what's happened?
So stream suspended for policy violations.
Oh, no. Really?
Maybe the F-bomb?
No, it's because we're
It's because of the the copyright stuff.
Oh gosh.
Really?
But you can say you guys are reacting to it and giving proper.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're giving commentary and
Yeah,
Exactly.
this certainly falls within fair use.
Yes, no,
Yeah,
it totally does. So we can still have it keep going. And Karen says it's still on Facebook. So we can still air it. And it still falls within fair use. And we can
It really falls within fair use.
we can contest it later.
Gotcha.
Right. So let's march forward.
All right. Is it also off on Aries Studio? Let's just check there.
I'm on Aries Studio, and that's where it's off. I didn't check Axanar.
It fell off on it. Yeah, I checked. It was off on Axanar. All right. Let's put in the comments.
I'm telling them.
This is where having. Let me get the link to Facebook, and we'll put it in all the comments so everyone can move to the Facebook page.
Oh, it looks like we're back.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, we're back again.
No, I'm not kidding. Where are you back? Are you back on?
I'm on Aries Studio.
Oh, there we are. Yeah. All right. That's weird.
Maybe if you just say fair use enough times to.
Yeah. Fair use. It's like Candyman. It's the Beetlejuice of agents. All right, let me just see. Are we? So I see us on Aries Studio.
Axanar and Aries are both up, according to some of the people here. So,
okay. Well, I'm just going to put the. Let me put that in. If you're watching on the Axanar channel, this is now. Listen, this is where we need to start using Twitch, because Twitch is owned by Amazon, and if it's on Amazon, you can literally stream it directly from Amazon in your channel. I mean, it's brilliant. So enough of this. The YouTube stuff is a little annoying. I'm going to ask everyone and see. Right now, we got 31 people watching on the Axanar channel. So I'm going to be asking you, if you're watching to move over to the Aries Studios channel, or watch us on the Axanar Facebook page, one or the other. Just because, just in case we lose it again, the Facebook is the best. Okay, so we're back. All right, let's see what else we got. We may lose it again if we keep playing this. As a matter of fact, why don't we just skip by all the bullshit between Kirk and Shinzon? And let's see, is there any more battle stuff here?
yeah, this is the Romulans will decloak, and then they get right back to it.
Captain.
Oh, and a commercial.
Does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find.
This is why I'm a YouTube premium person.
Yeah.
Just when I thought this couldn't get any worse.
We are being hailed.
On screen.
Captain Picard, Commander Dinatra of the Warbird Valdur. Might we be of assistance?
Good use of music here.
Assistance.
The Empire considers this a matter of internal security. We regret you become involved.
Commander, when this is over, I owe you a drink.
Oh, I hate that line.
Romulan ale, Captain.
I just think that's so forced.
You heard the lady.
Yeah, and the Romulan ale kind of fan service.
Although I do love the Valdur class of Romulan Warbird. I just think it's after that horrendous Romulan ship from Next Generation, which I hated. I think the Valdur class is just beautiful.
shields down to 40%.
Keep our bow on the scimitar. Auxiliary power to forward shields.
Aye, sir.
Okay, so something like that, that should all be automatic, right? The system should be constantly compensating. You shouldn't have to tell the computer, hey, the F shields are down to 40%. We better reinforce them, right?
Well, actually, yes, the shields were down to 40%. So they turned the ship to face the front of the ship so they could make the attack run. And they added auxiliary power to the forward shield to reinforce the front shield, which was now being brought to bear.
Yeah, I a lot of this, and this is the difference between drama and real life is, you just expect. Did we lose it again?
Yep.
All right, we're just not going to be able to do this.
All right, damn.
Why don't we will just wait it out here until. We're gonna have to postpone this and do it on Twitch, where we can get away with it. I mean, they're just, it's just being incredibly obnoxious.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me just put. I guess if we put it, I guess the comments will still work.
Yeah, in fact, I've typed one out.
But if you're watching on Facebook, you're the smart people because you've got us. Thanks.
Yeah.
Tiffany gave me a heads up. Thank you.
And it looks like we're back.
Yeah, probably because the show is paused.
All right, so we're just gonna stop that. We're just what I'll try and do this week between packing and everything else and shipping all the posters from the Kickstarter and just about everything else we're doing is I'll try and get Twitch up and running. JP Poole is awesome at that. He's the one that told me about it, and we can continue this once we get Twitch running. We'll just stream it directly from Amazon because I think Amazon Prime has all the Star Trek movies.
Okay,
maybe some. You can tell me about that. But the thing we'll do it off of them. Then we don't have to deal with this. Yeah, because what we're doing is technically legal. It is commentary under fair use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, this is what happens when you let the robots run things.
Yeah.
It starts like this, and the next thing you know, we're all locked in pods, trying to decide whether we want the red pill or the blue pill.
By the way, anyone know what is the new Matrix movie about?
Oh, there's a new
Matrix movie?
Dude, they're filming it now.
Yeah, I guess I did hear about that.
Yeah. I thought the only one Ken Reeves was the new Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure movie.
Oh my God, I cannot wait to see that because
yeah, I am gonna go see that one.
I will say, the last one was great because it was. I think they kind of it became one big giant in joke, and I think they're kind of perpetuating that. So I think it's one of those movies where you can't go to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or whatever the new one's called, and not come away feeling like, oh, that was pretty much exactly what I thought it would be. Right? It's totally unpretentious. Yeah. It's like we're just gonna have fun, and you're just gonna sit back there and laugh, and that's about it.
That's good enough.
I really like the fan theory that John Wick's real name is Ted Logan.
Oh, that would be
fantastic.
That would be awesome. Yeah,
I mean, they've got to have Keanu Reeves on Saturday Night Live and do the crossover.
Oh, oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That'll be amazing. That'll be amazing. And the John Wick series is spectacular. I'm sorry. The point about Bill and Ted I was going to make is that there are some movies that you just have to appreciate when they execute their basic premise. They're successful. Doesn't matter what if it's a great movie, the bad. And I always said this about Pacific Rim, the first Pacific Rim, when that came out. I always said that was the perfect summer movie. It was exactly what you thought it was. It's giant robots versus giant monsters. That's it. And you went and you saw it, and it executed that brilliantly. So when you left the theater, you were like, hey, that was a pretty good movie. You weren't going, oh my God, Idris Elba is going to get the Academy Award. You were going, you know, that was a fun movie. It was exactly what I thought. And I'll never forget because that year, which was, what was that? That was 2016, I want to say. Anyway, that year we were at Dragon Con and we're sitting at the bar late night. And it was my friend Emily, who's a scientist, with a bunch of her scientist friends, female scientist friends, like NASA people and astronomy, astronomy, astrophysics people, and like smart women. Emily is a smart woman who hangs out with other smart women. So I was, fortunately, we're friends. So I got invited to sit with all these smart women and drink. And we start talking about movies. And one of them said, and everyone's talking about their favorite movie of that summer. And someone said, we start talking about, I said that about Pacific Rim, and someone said, yeah, but I kind of had a problem with the physics of the giant robots. And I'm like, excuse me? Giant robots versus giant monsters, and your problem was the physics? Really?
You've got the wrong
Dude, lighten up, Francis.
This actually harkens back, I think, to the very first show we did, Alec, when we were talking about Field of Dreams and stuff like that. It's like I think the two greatest sins you can do in cinema are they all involve making the lying to the audience, right?
Yeah.
And you can lie to the audience in the marketing.
Yeah.
And you can lie to the audience in the movie itself.
Yeah.
And so this is the problem that I always kind of had with The Matrix. I thought The Matrix was okay. I didn't think it was the super thing that everybody else did. And that's because my problem with The Matrix is it wants to be a thinking person's movie, but all the thoughts it has to offer you are really kind of dumb. And the same thing with Field of Dreams is the exact opposite of that, right? It's all about an emotional response. There's not a damn thing that in that movie that makes the least amount of sense, but it's still a lot of fun to watch because it never really asks you to engage it in anything other than an emotional way. And so, giant robots against giant monsters, it's not really about thinking, right?
No, it makes no, and I love the part about, we're going to build a giant wall. That's going to stop the flying monster?
Yeah.
Whose idea was that? Was Mike Pence president? I mean, Jesus Christ.
I will admit, I still have only seen about 20 minutes of that first Pacific Rim movie. I did see the second one, which is universally despised, as near as I can tell. I actually kind of surprisingly liked it.
I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was bad. I think it was kind of more of the same, and it was, it wasn't brilliant. I thought Pacific Rim, the first one, was brilliant.
The thing I really liked about the second one is that they got this one particular sense of the universe, I think, spot on. The kid who gets picked up is so excited about the various robots that she's seeing, right? And I mean, like, she's got their poster on the wall. The fact that these robots have fan clubs and they have names and they have histories and the people who pilot them are celebrities. I mean, all that stuff is like, yeah, that's cool. That's the part that I really thought was cool, is that, they take her to the base and she goes, oh my God, that's such and such. Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. It's like, all right, they understand how the history of this stuff works, right?
Yeah. They understand how the future works based on where we're going with social media.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah. It was, listen, again, and the second one, I don't despise the second one. I'll watch it once, I've watched it a couple times that it's been on TV, because, it's a popcorn movie. No one's asking you to think it through this movie. Sit back and enjoy it and just love the special effects. And, it's There's nothing. If it's one of those, don't overanalyze that movie. You know?
Eddie Izzard does a great routine in his Dress to Kill stand-up, where he talks about how the Brits do these movies with names like A Room with a View and a Staircase and a Pond, and they come over and they like, you can't eat popcorn to these movies. And it's just like people having dramatic conversations in rooms and stuff like that. And he does a little bit of that, and then the Americans will buy the movie and remake it, and they'll add like flying monsters.
It's so true. Yeah. It's so
A Room with a View of Hell, Staircase to Pond of Death.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. By the way, is our YouTube back up? Yeah,
we're back up on YouTube.
Yeah, we're back up everywhere. So if you joined us when we were down, it was like, well, they don't want us commentating on Star Trek movies, I guess. So
their robots are too stupid to know that what we're doing is allowed.
Right, exactly. Enough of your fair use arguments.
It's a taste of what it'll be like when our robot overlords take over.
I know. Yeah, I should have just, it's unfortunate that I'm trying to think if I took. Yeah, I did take intellectual property law when I was in law school. That was one of the classes I took. I think that was as a 2L. I took that class. But yeah, it's like I should be lecturing on the circuit about copyright law, in practice, not in theories. It seems to be a never-ending part of a Star Trek fan film.
We can come up with a plan ahead to actually analyze that battle. It probably is very short clips and some photos and maybe some.
Yeah, well, again, I'll get on Twitch this week, so I'll make sure that it's on. Let's see. We can even check. Someone check to see if it's on Amazon Prime.
I'm almost positive it is, because I think I know that I watched First Contact on Amazon Prime. And I thought about watching Nemesis on Amazon Prime, but then I discovered that there were 5 videos on YouTube, and I could just watch those instead.
Gotcha. Paul Bryant says, Arrival from 2016 was a brilliant film. What do you think to follow the story, no emotional fluff? That was good. I think the thing also is that there are some movies that require you to think. There's some movies that don't, and there's a place in the universe for both of them.
Yeah. And Arrival is a particularly fascinating movie in that the short story that it was based on. If I had read the short story first, I would have been convinced you couldn't do a movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's going to be spoilers for Arrival. The problem with it, of course, is that you're seeing stuff out of order in the
right.
And the MacGuffin in the movie is that you just don't tell people that you're seeing it out of order, right? You think that you're seeing flashbacks in a way that you're not.
You're not.
It's actually kind of interesting in that regard. You think you're seeing flashbacks, but you're not. It's in a different order than you think.
One of the that movie was a. I'm sorry, you were frozen. Go ahead.
But in the short story, it's all done through tense. So she's written a letter to her daughter who hasn't been born yet. And all of the sentences are like sentences about the past, but they're all written with the future tense. And as a result of it, it's like it once you sort of figure out what's going on, it's like, oh wow, that's really cool.
That was a movie where when you realize what's happening there at the end, I'm like, oh, that was fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, wow. I was really impressed.
And it really, I think that short story and that, no, Jim, I don't think it is. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, it's not. But I think it's worth watching the movie and reading the short story and thinking a little bit about how the different genres can handle things like that. An author friend of mine has made the observation that the written word is the only media in which you can get inside a character's head. You can see hints of it in video. And, I suppose you could have some like crude narration voiceover, like the original Dune, the David Lynch Dune movie, where you're constantly hearing the voices in people's heads. But I mean, in turn, it's really the only one where you can really get inside a character's head, in quite that same way. So,
gotcha. Let's see, a couple of things. Someone said there's a new well, it's not Star Trek Renegades anymore. It's just Renegades, because it doesn't happen in the Star Trek universe anymore. We'll have to check that out. Let's see. Michael, your $5 super. Oh, whoa! What happened there? It's a $5 super chat. Did you see? Lissa's back. Whenever your camera's not on, Lissa, I assume you're not there. Did you watch the new Star Trek? No, I did not. I made it halfway. Listen, I am Jonathan Lane's the person to talk to about fan films, not me. I am generally not a fan of fan films. For whatever reason, which is really weird. Like Vance Major Owen, I'll watch his stuff, which is ironic. But he's a good friend and he does good stories and stuff. I think it's when they try and get close to the real thing and miss. It's that delta is what keeps me away from fan films. And I think there's been some brilliant fan films. Star Trek Exeter, the Tresorian Intersection I've always mentioned, is a brilliant Star Trek fan film. It is well worth it. The intro teaser by itself is well worth the price of admission, and it was worth the 10 years we had to wait to see that whole thing. But I was on the set of the first Star Trek Renegades, which was a lot of fun to see made. That's where I met Bing Bailey. That's where I met Gary Graham. It was a great time. Just checking your comments out. Jim Westbrook said, no, actually, I do. I've seen 2 episodes of Star Trek Continues. But in general, I just can't handle a Kirk that sounds like this. What else? What else do you guys have? Okay. Someone said that listen, I think Nemesis is a much maligned film. Also deservedly so. I think there's a lot in that film that's just, Stuart Baird just did not, the director they brought in, he was an editor. He wasn't a director. And they brought him in to finish the project, to finish Nemesis. And I just think it's a mess in a lot of ways. But I think that movie, what it needs is an editor. It needs to edit out all the B4 nonsense, because I think it was just, and edit out some of the fan service, the Scorpion and all that. But there was some good stuff. I think the stuff between Picard and Tom Hardy some of that stuff was really good. The stuff, when they're at Romulus and he's talking about how hard it is to trust and that, I think was really great stuff. You see not only what a great actor Patrick Stewart is, but the potential that Tom Hardy realized, 10, 15 years later, because he was just at the beginning of his career.
There was a piece of that movie. It was watching the final, not the absolute final scene, but the scene where Data shows up and helps Picard. I was wondering if Buddy was going to join us. That scene made me realize one of the problems that I've had with all the Star Trek movies. Because Pat and I have had this conversation multiple times. I really think that Star Trek is at its best on the small screen, not the big screen.
I agree.
And my metric is basically, for watching any Star Trek movie, my metric is, would I rather watch this movie or would I rather watch yesterday's Enterprise twice?
My favorite next year was my discussion on how Star Trek II ruined the entire original series movies franchise,
which is great. Let's do that in just a second. Let me finish my thought, and then I'll turn it over to you for that. That last scene. So so first of all, okay, I got it, Picard. This is your clone son. You need to deal with this, etc., etc. But remember the part where they're going to blow up Earth? Remember that part? Remember the part that if you fail, they blow up Earth? Maybe you should send data. Okay, that's number one. Number two is data shows up with about 30, 35 seconds left. And rather than say, excuse me, boss, I'm going to go save the day, and then we can have a conversation about my performance review or whatever. Instead, they have this, in-depth, meaningful conversation, leaving data with 4 seconds left. So I guess I'll just shoot it with a phaser, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
And so Star Trek movies have always done stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's not just Star Trek movies. I don't want to make it sound like they're uniquely bad in that regard. But every time something like that happens, it yanks me out of the suspension of disbelief. Really, it may not pull me all the way out, but it really, really yanks at me.
Which is another reason why Wrath of Khan is not only the best Star Trek movie by far, but in my mind, one of the 10 great sci-fi movies of the time.
I'm actually going to disagree with you on that. I think that the fourth movie is the best one, because I think that the original series was at its best doing light comedy. I think Wrath of Khan suffered from some of the problems of we have to make this, we have to have it be in code, but we have to make it comprehensible for the 8-year-olds in the audience. So, hours will seem like days, wink, wink. And it's stuff like that. And there's just lots of little things in there where I go.
See, that's one of those things where you have to use the Arius comment about the Matrix,
Yeah.
Just assume it was a more complex code, but that was a translation for us.
Yeah, he's referring to my old roommate and fellow B9 member, Arius Kaufman. When I was complaining about the Matrix, I said, what they should have done for the Matrix is this is what they should have done. It should have been XYZ, blah, 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 blah. And I've got this great way that you could have, that I think would have fixed everything that was wrong with the Matrix. And Arius looked at me and he said, everything you just said is a change in the dialogue. You could just redub the movie and get that. And a big chunk of it is in the one scene at the end where Keanu Reeves talks to the guy in the room with all the TV screens. So why don't you just pretend that that's what they said? And I said, fair enough.
Yeah. Press the I believe button and then you'll like the movie again. So
yeah. All right. So Pat, you should tell us about how it broke the franchise.
Oh, okay. So first, I love Star Trek 2, big fan of it, and I do like all the movies and everything like that. And I'm also a big believer it is better on the small screen because they actually do the explore strange new worlds, and some episodes are good, some episodes are okay, and some episodes not, some are Spock's brain. But either way, we get our story, multiple stories and favorite stories out of the deal. So I like it better on the small screen. Because then we gotta wait years for every 2 hours of the show and all that kind of stuff. It needs to be a big villain and all that. But the reason I believe that Star Trek 2 broke the movies is because, in the motion picture, we at least see some strange sort of alien object coming and stuff. And the Wrath of Khan, great throwback to the original series. So that was good. But the problem is they killed Spock. And so we needed to spend 2 movies bringing Spock back. And so we never got to do any of the exploration. And then in Star Trek 5, unfortunately, that was a swing and a miss.
Arguably, Star Trek 5 does do what Star Trek's supposed to do.
Exactly.
It explores strange new worlds. It asks big questions. It's exploring the meaning of life and the nature of God. It just doesn't do it well.
Wing and a miss. Yeah. Now, actually, I will say, I would say it's not even the story. I read the novel when it came out a long time ago. Now, I've never walked out of a Star Trek movie or any other quite so angry as Star Trek V, because I'm waiting 2 or 3 years for this, and then we got Star Trek V, just because they made all the characters look stupid. Some of the dialogue was bad. The special effects looked like someone was just holding a starship on a stick and moving it across the screen in a lot of cases. Yeah, and I understand there was a strike and all that kind of stuff. So
I'm a little bit sympathetic to William Shatner when he had the movie 2/3 of the way done, having his budget cut by 1/3. So, I mean, they had to rewrite the ending to deal with the fact that the budget was cut. But, that doesn't explain the fact that literally every aspect of that movie was bad. Special effects are bad. You can explain that by money. The casting was bad.
Like Lawrence Luckenbill as Cybok?
Or, remember the whiny Romulan ambassador?
Oh, yeah. But she was hot.
But she was horrible. She's
a realtor in Pennsylvania now.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, it's like, I remember thinking all the way through it, everything about that movie was bad. And they tried to be funny and couldn't pull that off with the, I know the ship like the back of my hand and stuff like that. It was just bad across the board.
Yeah. Well, the humor was sort of demeaning to the characters, right? Sulu and Chekhov get lost. Scotty, I know the ship like the back of my hand. He hits his head and passes out. All that stuff. And
this is actually, to jump over to the Avengers for a second, this is the problem that I have with all the Thor stuff. And what's his name? Chris Hemsworth. He's pushed to make Thor more human by making him a goofball, which just drives me crazy because he's Thor. He shouldn't be a goofball. They're perfectly able to make Chris Evans as Captain America funny by doing the fish out of water thing. Who do you think would be the bigger fish out of water? The guy who was frozen for 40 years or the guy who's a Norse god who hasn't been around for like 2,000 years, right? So they had a pathway to do it, but instead they did things like make Thor Ragnarok, which is just like, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Thorbowski.
Yeah, the big Thorbowski. So, yeah, that stuff drives me crazy.
Well, I think there's a reason why there's some Star Trek purists who like Star Trek the Motion Picture the most, and it gets to your point, Pat, that Star Trek is better on the small screen than on the big screen. So you can definitely make that point. And you look at Star Trek, and realistically, Star Trek 1 was really it was a mixed bag. Star Trek the Motion Picture, I think it actually gets more credit now than it has for a long time. But it's still not. It would be a great episode, 2-part episode, right? It's kind of like Star Trek Insurrection. It would be a great 2-part episode. It's not a great movie, just because it's not epic enough to be a great movie.
And I think actually you can make the argument that Star Trek the Motion Picture would be a great 1-part episode.
Yeah, no, I would love to see. Yeah, I think actually it becomes a much better movie if you cut out the people doing this.
Yeah, right.
At the screen with lights flat, the psychedelic part. But
it wouldn't fit in 44 minutes. It would probably fit in an hour 20 minutes as opposed to 2 hours.
I think you could just change the pacing of the movie, and I because the dialogue's good, the stuff with the characters is good, all that. It's an interesting problem. So but the other thing the movies do is the Enterprise is always the only ship in the quadrant. It's like, where's the rest of Starfleet? They can't all be out on the frontier.
And we saw that in Nemesis. Apparently, you take out Earth, the entire Federation's going to fall apart.
Yeah, they hadn't figured that out yet. Like, hey, do you think maybe we ought to defend Earth? I mean, but anyways.
Well, you did actually see in the 4th movie, they didn't do that, right? Mm-hmm. Earth has defenses, and they all go offline, right? It takes them all offline, which is actually, I would like to have seen a little bit more dialogue there. It's like, what do you mean they're all offline? You mean you can't talk to them? No, they're all reporting that they're down. It's not just that they got the comm satellite or the comm link; it's that they're down.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, in that regard, the fourth movie actually I think does a little bit of the sense of wonder, Brave New World, or Strange.
Oh yeah, no. The fourth movie is, but it gets back to the whole thing. It's all the even numbered movies are
Yeah.
good.
My favorites are 2 and 6 if I go by that, but I still like 4. I mean, 4 is a good movie. I like 3 for what it is and stuff too. I mean, it's not that they're bad movies, but the death of Spock in Star Trek 2 derailed them from doing the normal things that we would have, that I really would have. I would have rather seen those movies, and I know
Star Trek 3 is basically a wasted movie. You basically had, if Spock hadn't died in Star Trek 2, you never would have made Star Trek 3.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then they probably could have done the Save the Whales in Star Trek 3, and then 4 and 5 hopefully would have been something better. 6 was good. So, and I like it when they're exploring the strange new worlds, but I also really like it when they're doing the politics, the Alpha Quadrant, politics between Klingons and Romulans and, all that kind of stuff, which Deep Space Nine did brilliantly. And that's probably one of the reasons DS9 between the characters and that is one of my favorites. But
well, we got way derailed from Starfleet Tactical this week because of our failed fair use defense of our footage. But we're going to try and come back next week, and we'll see. We'll post. We'll see if we're going to be able to do it on Twitch, and it may be something where we do a special episode just on Twitch and let everyone know about that. Mm-hmm. But our time is up. I want to thank Chris and Pat for joining us again this week and talking all things geeky. Listen, 2 ways to support us. Thank you so much for supporting the studio. First is our Patreon campaign. If you want to become a patron of the studio, and really be the first to hear about a lot of different things and get unique discounts and swag, please join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Aries Studios. And the other cool thing, of course, is to go to the Aries Studio store and buy cool swag. There's all sorts of stuff. This week we are shipping out the posters. I'll be giving everyone an update on that tomorrow night, but just got 10 heavy boxes full of posters delivered today. So we are going to start shipping on Monday. But in the meantime, thanks everyone. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 o'clock for Axanar After Dark. Chris and Pat will be back next Saturday for Starfleet Tactical, and we'll kind of try and give you the heads up on exactly what we're doing. If we do Twitch and get our Twitch channel up and running, I'll kind of give everyone a heads up on that a few days in advance. So okay. There you go. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Live long and prosper, everyone. We will see you all here next week. And in the meantime, be good and wear your damn mask.